The story begins in a town situated right in the middle of the woods. As evening falls, a sheriff named Boyd takes a bell and walks through the town. At the sound of the bell, residents quickly head indoors. Similarly, the local diner is closing down. Inside, we see a girl named Sarah check a talisman before she leaves. As she does, a radio suddenly turns on by itself and begins to play a song. Across town in the hospital, a dementia patient, Mr. Liu, is playing chess with his son. Kenny, the town's deputy and Boyd's partner, is asked to end the game by the doctor, Christy. Mr. Liu protests childishly but eventually agrees and goes to his room with a nurse named Gina. After Kenny and Christy share a brief, caring exchange, he also leaves, revealing a clear connection between them. After closing the hospital gate, Christy checks the hospital's talisman. This confirms the talisman's importance in the town, after which she also goes inside. Kenny then finds Boyd, who is looking at a colony house with binoculars, where many people are partying. As night falls, they also go inside. This reveals there are two types of residents in this town. One group living in individual houses, and another living together in the colony house. Boyd then heads to his station, where a board reads Nights Without Incidents. 96. The nature of these dangerous incidents remains a mystery. In the town's bar, a man named Frank is passed out drunk. After a failed attempt to rouse him, the bartender checks his talisman and leaves Frank there. Frank never makes it home, where his wife, Lauren, and daughter, Megan, are waiting. Frustrated with her husband, Lauren eventually locks the doors for the night. Later that night, Megan is in her room when she hears her grandma's voice calling from the window, asking to be let in from the cold. Lauren rushes to stop her. Despite noticing the figure doesn't look exactly like her grandmother, Megan opens the window. The figure instantly transforms into a monster, bursts into the room, and attacks Megan. The next morning, we see a couple, Jim and Tabby, in an RV with their teenage daughter, Julie, and young son, Ethan. On the way, Julie tries to scare Ethan with a monster story, but Tabby reassures him. It's also clear that Julie seems distant from her parents. Back in town, Frank wakes up and returns home to find a large crowd gathered outside. Boyd angrily confronts him, slaps him, and takes him upstairs to show him the bodies of Megan and his wife, whom the monsters had brutally killed. A distraught Frank begins to cry. Boyd, wanting to kill him, is stopped by Kenny. As Boyd comes downstairs after telling Kenny to jail Frank, he meets Father Catry. Boyd tells him to go upstairs, then emotionally takes the talisman from the house and leaves. As established, the talisman acts as a protective ward, preventing the human-like monsters from entering a home. However, it is useless if someone inside, like Megan, opens a door or window. We then rejoin Tabby and her family on their journey. They find their path blocked by a fallen tree. And as they get out to look, a large flock of ravens appears, cawing loudly. Unsettled, they turn back to find another route. In another part of town, Boyd visits the colony house, run by a woman named Donna, with whom he has a tense relationship. Boyd is there to see his son, Ellis, who is painting his girlfriend, Fatima. Fatima is happy to see Boyd, but Ellis is clearly not. Boyd tells Ellis about the deaths of Lauren and Megan, and asks him to attend the funeral. Ellis's lack of reaction speaks volumes, and Boyd leaves. On the main road, Tabby and her family suddenly lose their phone signal. Shortly after, they arrive in the same strange town. Jim gets out and asks Boyd for the way to the highway. Boyd, shocked to see newcomers, advises him to continue on the same road. But as Jim drives, the RV circles back to the same town. This time, Jim asks the diner girl, Sarah, for directions, but she behaves strangely and walks away. During this, we also see Sarah's brother, Nathan, who tends to the town's livestock. Jim keeps driving only to end up in the same town again. An argument breaks out between Jim and Tabby. On their third loop through the town, Jim furiously reverses direction. Seeing this, Boyd and Kenny decide to follow them. Jim speeds down the road, but a car suddenly appears, causing the RV to swerve, crash into the trees, and tip over. Jim and his family are injured. A rod has pierced Ethan's leg, and Tabby is unconscious. The other car's driver, Toby, gets out and vomits. Boyd and Kenny had been setting up a spike strip to stop Jim's RV and explain the town's reality. Seeing Toby's condition, Boyd immediately sends him to the hospital with Kenny and runs toward the crash. At the hospital, Christy instructs Gina to bandage Toby and then heads to the accident with Kenny. Boyd, having reached Toby's car, car, finds another man, a heavily intoxicated Jade, inside. Since he isn't seriously injured, Boyd handcuffs Jade to the car and goes to the crashed RV to help Jim's family. On their way to the crash site, Kenny, Father Catry, and Christy meet Ellis, who joins them. They find that Boyd has already pulled Julie from the RV. Catry stays with Jade while Kenny and Christy help Boyd rescue Tabby and Jim. Ethan, however, is more seriously injured and remains unconscious. With night approaching, Boyd and Christy decide to treat Ethan in the RV overnight, using the talisman from Megan's house for protection. He insists the rest must return to town, stating he doesn't want to bury any more children. Jim reluctantly agrees, but Tabby can't leave Ethan. Jim decides to stay, sending Tabby and Julie back to town with Kenny, Catry, and Ellis. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Sarah approaches Toby, kisses him, apologizes strangely, and then stabs and kills him, seemingly under some unseen influence. As Kenny drives everyone back to town, their car's tire is punctured by the very spike strip Boyd had set. By now, it is dark. Ellis, Catry, and Kenny rush Jade, Tabby, and Julie from the car, telling them to run and ignore any voices or figures they see, warning them they won't be human. Inside the RV, Boyd has placed the talisman. Christy is treating Ethan, who suddenly begins having seizures. Just then, as darkness completely envelopes them, scores of monsters in human form begin to advance on the RV. It becomes clear that the monsters appear human, luring people into opening doors before tearing them apart. Outside the RV, these creatures appear, speaking in human voices. Thinking more townspeople have arrived to help, Jim moves to open the door, but Boyd forcefully stops him. Meanwhile, Kenny and the others reach the colony house. A drunken Jade falls, knocking himself unconscious. Donna hesitates to open the gate, fearing they could be monsters. Just as the real creatures are about to attack Julie, calling her name to manipulate her, Fatima convinces Donna to let them in. Inside, Tabby and Julie are confused, as the creatures looked like ordinary people. For safety, Donna ties up the newcomers, Tabby, Julie, and the unconscious Jade, since one mistake could cost everyone their lives. Tabby is secured in Donna's room, Jade to a bed, and Julie in the kitchen. In the kitchen, a peculiar man named Victor appears looking for Peaches, frightening Julie with his odd demeanor. Fatima intervenes, asking Victor to leave before calming Julie down. She then takes Julie to Ellis's room, showing her his impressive paintings. There, Fatima explains how the monsters lure people with sweet talk before killing them. Back in the RV, a terrified Christy fears they won't survive, but Boyd calms her. She manages to remove the rod from Ethan's leg and stitch the wound. Ethan reveals that during his seizure, he saw a place with many paintings. Boyd and Christy are shocked, learning this was his first ever seizure. At the colony house, Kenny argues with Ellis, who blames Kenny for their late arrival due to the spike strip. After their heated exchange, Ellis gives him a bottle of liquor. Later, while drinking with Father Catry, Kenny reveals his backstory. His father's dementia led them on a trip that ended with them seeing the same fallen tree and getting trapped in the town. He expresses his fear that his father's condition could endanger them all. Father Catry encourages him to stay positive. Meanwhile, at the hospital, after a game of chess, Gina takes Mr. Liu to his room. Nearby, Sarah has killed Toby, repeatedly apologizing and claiming it was the only way to save everyone. She then leaves the room. In her room, Donna explains to a disbelieving Tabby that everyone in town arrived the same way, seeing a cursed tree and a flock of ravens before becoming trapped. She tells Tabby she's lucky they arrived during the day. Donna then shares the story of her fearless sister. When they got stuck at night, a man stood in front of their car. Her sister got out to confront him, not knowing he was one of the creatures. The monster tore her apart while the others joined in, torturing her all night as Donna listened to her screams. Donna concludes that the monsters don't just kill, they hunt and torture for sport. We then see Victor drawing in his room, perhaps the place Ethan saw during his seizure. The night passes and morning arrives. In the RV, everyone has survived. Boyd, Christy, and Jim carry Ethan outside and reunite with the rest of the family, who are overjoyed to see them. Elsewhere, Sarah confesses to her brother, Nathan, that voices promised she could go home if she killed Toby, and left the hospital door open. Nathan tries to manage her strange behavior. Because Sarah left the door open, Christy, Kenny, and Catry enter the hospital to find the mutilated bodies of Mr. Liu, Gina, and Toby. They are unaware that Sarah is Toby's killer. Devastated, Kenny embraces his father's body. Later, in a fit of grief and rage, he takes an axe to a tree. Boyd finds him and offers some comfort before Kenny leaves. Boyd then returns to his office, where he looks at a boat key and remembers his wife, Abby. Finally, Ethan, now resting in the colony house, looks out the window and sees a mysterious boy his age dressed entirely in white. The boy smiles at Ethan and Ethan smiles back. Scene shifts to the colony house, where Jim and his family are staying. Life there is communal and non-judgmental. Tabby is woken by a terrifying nightmare and is comforted by her husband, Jim. Nearby, a now conscious Jade, still tied to a bed, begins shouting, prompting an angry Donna to go and explain the town's monstrous reality to him. The next morning, Boyd wakes and looks at a large box in the town square. He had created a rule. Anyone whose actions lead to a death is to be left in the box overnight without a talisman. Since Frank's negligence led to his family's death, the box is to be used for the first time. Boyd goes to the jail, where a grief-stricken Frank tells him that his wife, Lauren, always believed Boyd would get them all out of this place. At the colony house, Donna has spent the night explaining everything to Jade, including the fact that Toby is dead. Jade, however, refuses to believe her, convinced he's in an elaborate prank or reality show. He cheerfully borrows a girl's bicycle to explore the set. During his ride, Ethan again sees the boy in white. They exchange a quiet hi, an interaction unseen by anyone else. At the diner, Mrs. Liu, Kenny's mother, puts on a brave face while cooking for the town, but she is secretly devastated by her husband's death. Sarah, who works at the diner, arrives, her role in the previous night's tragedy still a secret. Later, Father Catry meets with Jim and Tabby to explain their choice: live freely in the communal colony house or take a private house in the town. Ignoring Julie's desire to stay at the colony house, Jim and Tabby immediately choose the town. An angry Julie storms off. Catry then takes the couple to see an empty house. Jade, still treating everything as a joke, cuts the line at the diner to get food. The other townspeople, including Kenny and Sarah, find his behavior bizarre, with Sarah muttering that he'll be killed soon. When Sarah spots her brother, Nathan, she quietly tells him to leave before he draws suspicion to her. Catry shows Jim and Tabby their new house, reminding them to always follow the rules. They see the box meant for Frank, and Catry explains its purpose. He then leads them to the house, which is the same one where Lauren and Megan died. Inside, the sight of the blood-stained walls in Megan's room is too much for Tabby. Crying, she comes outside, questioning why Jim trusts these people. Jim reminds her that these people saved their lives and that they have no other choice, as all their attempts to leave have failed. At Frank's request, Boyd takes him to the swing set he built for his daughter. The visit is emotional for both men, with Boyd clearly saddened by the situation. Inside the colony house, Ellis makes a walking stick for Ethan, while Julie learns from Fatima that the townspeople rely on each other to survive. Using his new stick, Ethan finds Victor behind the house, measuring the distance to trees to see if they move at night. Ethan asks about the boy in white. Victor is shocked, revealing he used to see the boy himself. He asks Ethan to say hi for him next time. When Julie arrives, she sees her brother with Victor, whom she considers crazy, and pulls Ethan away. Meanwhile, a carefree Jade discovers a storage bunker. Inside, he finds the crushed body of a man under a large rock. The corpse suddenly screams at him, causing Jade to fall back in terror. He sees a strange symbol on the ceiling, but a moment later, everything is normal again. Laughing it off as part of the game, he emerges, thinking he needs to find clues to escape. Boyd, conflicted, visits Father Catry at the church for the first time. He admits he never intended to use the box, creating it only as a deterrent. He doesn't want to sentence Frank to death. Catry argues that if Boyd breaks his own rule, order will collapse. He reminds Boyd that since his arrival and the discovery of the talismans, deaths have nearly stopped, leading to the 96 days without incidents. Catry also points out that the talisman's effectiveness in vehicles was proven by the incident with Jim's family. Enraged that a priest is encouraging this, Boyd insults Catry and storms out, going straight to Frank to give him the talisman. Boyd then heads to the town meeting, where Jim's family must publicly declare their choice. The choice is represented by a flower, colony house, or a stone, town. To everyone's shock, Frank arrives and returns the talisman to Boyd. He declares that he accepts his fate, not wanting to burden Boyd or undermine the rules that keep everyone else safe. The crowd is moved, but Jade, thinking it's all an act, begins laughing and clapping, and furious Boyd grabs him and forces him to choose. Jade picks the stone, the town. As Kenny leads him away, Jade threatens Boyd, unaware his life is already ruined. Jim, Tabby, and Ethan officially choose the town. However, Julie, angry that her parents ignore her, chooses the colony house for freedom. Tabby protests, but the decision is final. Boyd promises her that his son, Ellis, will look after Julie. As darkness falls, the townspeople say their final goodbyes to Frank before locking him in the box and returning to their homes. Kenny takes Jade to the graveyard to force him to accept the truth. He uncovers Toby's mauled body. The sight and smell finally break through Jade's denial. Realizing everything is real, he breaks down crying. Kenny consoles him and takes him to his house, telling his mourning mother that Jade will be staying with them. The scene shifts to Frank in the box, remembering his family as the monsters gather outside. They tear the box apart and attack. Then we see a flashback to a young Victor emerging from the same storage room Jade recently discovered. He steps out into a town littered with dead bodies, revealing he has been trapped here since childhood. In the present, at the colony house, Julie wakes to find Victor drawing a picture of her. He explains that he draws to separate reality from dreams. Trudy, a woman from the house, appears wearing Julie's clothes, but Julie, remembering the communal nature of the house, doesn't question it. Elsewhere, Boyd finds Frank's mauled body in the box. He loads it onto a trolley and heads toward the church. In their new house, Jim and Tabby worry about Julie. Tabby confesses she believes they are trapped here as punishment for the death of their other child, Thomas. Jim consoles her just as Ethan arrives. To lift their spirits, Jim takes Ethan to the diner, where Mrs. Lou has made them special pancakes. At the diner, Jim tells Ethan they are just on a short vacation, then excuses himself to the washroom to cry. While he's gone, Victor approaches Ethan, claiming the trees moved 4 inches overnight, which he says is a bad sign. He shows Ethan a drawing of the boy in white, and Ethan confirms the likeness. Jim returns and, seeing Victor with his son, angrily grabs him and orders him to stay away. He takes Ethan home, but Ethan is now upset with his father for his harsh treatment of his new friend. Meanwhile, Jade convinces Kenny to take him to the storage room where he claims he saw a body and a symbol. Kenny dismisses it as imagination and leads Jade to the police station instead. At the colony house, a homesick Julie is taken by Fatima to work outside, where Tabby arrives with a sweater. Tabby asks her to move back in with them, which prompts Julie to reveal the real reason she's staying away. Her parents were planning to divorce after this one last family trip. She explains that after Thomas's death, they blamed each other. After her confession, she returns to the colony house. At the station, Kenny shows Jade a map marked with the locations where every resident was before they encountered the tree and became trapped. Though skeptical, Jade, a man of science, believes there must be a logical way out. Suddenly, the radio crackles to life with strange noises, a common occurrence. Seeing it as a potential clue, Jade takes the radio with him. Back at the house, Tabby tells Jim about her conversation with Julie. Since Jim had only agreed to the divorce for Tabby's sake, he becomes angry. Ethan overhears their argument. Victor appears at the back gate, telling Ethan the boy in white has chosen him and that they must go find him. Ethan agrees. Victor gives him a new walking stick and leads him into the forest. Boyd, still angry about the previous night, is fixing the box when Father Catry finds him. After burying Frank, Catry reminds Boyd that he brought order to the town when it was in chaos, and his rules saved countless lives. He warns Boyd that his current attitude is eroding the townspeople's hope. His words get through to Boyd, who seems to regain his composure. In the forest, Victor tells Ethan he is the oldest survivor and that when he first arrived, the town was filled with people trapped in their cars, all of whom are now dead. They spot the boy in white and follow him to a large hollow tree. Victor explains that these are faraway trees that can teleport people, but the destination is random and often deadly. Suddenly, Victor hears dogs barking, a sound from his childhood, and quickly leads Ethan away. In the town, Jim and Tabby, now frantic over Ethan's disappearance, run toward the forest. They are surrounded by barking dogs, but Victor reappears and fires a gun into the air, scaring them off. Jim angrily confronts Victor again, but Victor warns him off with the gun before retreating to his room. There, he sees an old drawing of the same dogs and recalls seeing the boy in white for the first time amidst a field of bodies. Back at the colony house, Fatima gives Julie the sweater from her mother, a kind gesture that comforts her. That evening, Boyd joins Jim's family for dinner at the diner. They thank him for saving their lives. A song begins to play on the radio. Sarah takes Ethan to get more food, and Kenny pulls Boyd aside. In that moment, Jim and Tabby apologize to each other, deciding to stay together. Ethan returns with a dish of potatoes. Suddenly, Sarah hears the voices again. This time, a message appears on her hand, "Kill the boy." Horrified, she collapses into a seizure. As everyone rushes to help her, the scene cuts to Victor outside the colony house, digging a series of graves. When Donna asks what he's doing, he simply says, "I'm helping," ominously implying more deaths are imminent. Seeing this, everyone is still reeling from Victor digging graves. A townswoman informs Nathan that his sister, Sarah, has been taken to the clinic due to a medical episode. Inside the clinic, Christy has stabilized Sarah but wants to keep her overnight for observation. She informs Boyd, who then finds Nathan waiting outside. Sarah refuses to see him, so Boyd asks Nathan to let her rest. Boyd grows suspicious, sensing Nathan knows more than he's letting on, but Nathan leaves without protest. We then see Jim and his family, who are also concerned for Sarah. To distract them, Jim suggests a game. They write any questions they have about the town on the wall, hoping it might lead to a clue. That night, alone in the clinic, the words, "Kill the boy," reappear on Sarah's hand. Scared, she seeks out Christy and poses a hypothetical question. If there was a way out, but it required doing something terrible, would she do it? Christy, seeing it as a generic moral dilemma, says yes, agreeing that a bad act might be justified if it benefits everyone. Their conversation deepens, revealing that Christy and Kenny have feelings for each other, but Christy is hesitant because she is engaged to a woman named Marielle in the outside world. She fears that if they ever escape, a relationship with Kenny would be a betrayal. Sarah understands, sharing that her brother, Nathan, has always protected her, especially from an abusive ex-boyfriend. They talk through the night. The next morning, Nathan arrives to take a departing Sarah home. At the colony house, a worried Julie confides in Fatima that she misses her life and the people in it. Fatima tells Ellis, and they decide to cheer her up by taking her to a beautiful, hidden lake that Ellis discovered. There, Julie asks Fatima how she stays so positive. Fatima shares that she is from Iran and that on her birthday years ago, her father, a preacher, was murdered by his enemies. This taught her that there are monsters everywhere and life is unpredictable, so she chooses to live without fear. We then see Boyd's hand begin to tremble as he experiences a seizure-like tremor. Worried that he, Ethan, and Sarah are somehow connected, he decides to visit his wife Abby's grave. He asks Kenny, the town's deputy, to take charge until he returns. In the town bar, Jade sits with the radio. He spits out his liquor, disgusted by its potato-based taste. The bartender, Tom, explains that they make do with what they have. Tom senses Jade's determination to escape, a familiar mindset for newcomers. He warns Jade that this place is stranger than he can imagine and that after a while, you even start to question reality itself. Meanwhile, Sarah, now armed with a surgical knife stolen from the clinic and emboldened by Christy's answer, finds Ethan outside his house. She coaxes him with a story about Nathan's animal farm, and Ethan eagerly asks to go. Sarah gets permission from Tabby, but Tabby, ever the protective mother, insists on going with them. A terrified Nathan, unable to bear the weight of Sarah's secret any longer, confesses everything to Father Catry. Horrified by the threat Sarah poses, they both race toward the farm. At Abby's grave, Boyd speaks to his late wife, admitting his fear and inability to find a way out. He asks her for a sign to give him the courage to venture deeper into the woods. At the farm, Sarah lures Tabby into a small shed and locks her inside, apologizing and claiming it's for everyone. As Tabby screams to be let out, Sarah approaches Ethan with the knife. Just as she is about to strike, Nathan tackles her. Ethan runs. In the struggle, the knife plunges into Nathan's neck. Catry arrives just in time to witness the horror. Ethan reaches the colony house and tells Fatima and Julie what happened. Julie rushes with him back toward the farm. By the time they arrive, Jim has freed Tabby, and Boyd has also reached the scene. Christy confirms that Nathan is dead. Catry emerges from the trees, reporting that Sarah has fled into the woods. A furious Jim takes Ethan home, lashing out at Boyd and the town. There, a new question dawns on Tabby, and she writes it on the wall. Did we even survive the RV crash? She voices her fear that they are all dead and trapped in limbo. Later, at the diner, a guilt-ridden Christy tells Boyd she feels responsible for Nathan's death. Boyd reassures her, saying Sarah was already on this path. Just then, a song begins to play on the radio, its lyrics eerily mirroring their situation. Boyd takes it as the sign he asked for from Abby and leaves with renewed purpose. Jade plans to build a radio tower by scavenging batteries from all the cars, hoping to contact the outside world. Meanwhile, Tabby goes to Father Catry, theorizing they are in limbo. Catry disagrees, believing they are alive but trapped in a place separate from the world. She also reveals that Ethan is terrified of Sarah and confused by her actions. Everyone assumes Sarah died in the forest after she fled. However, after Tabby leaves, Catry descends into the church basement, revealing a shocking secret. He has Sarah tied to a chair, proving he lied about her fate. Meanwhile, Boyd finds Kenny. After learning about Sarah, Kenny mentions his mother saw Sarah as a daughter, but Boyd, dismissing this, announces his plan to enter the forest alone to find a way out. The news enrages Kenny, who storms off, leaving Boyd confused. Later, Jim and Tabby make a shocking discovery in their house. The wire of a table lamp is fake, yet their appliances still work perfectly. This discovery leads them to question the source of the town's power. Just then, Jade arrives with his gathered equipment, seeking Jim's help to build the radio. We cut back to Catry and Sarah. Catry explains he is hiding Sarah to protect her from the box, the town's punishment for causing Nathan's death. Since Nathan had confessed to hearing voices, Catry believes Sarah's own voices could genuinely help the townspeople and begins to question her. Outside Colony House, Julie finds a bouquet of flowers and takes it inside. Elsewhere, Tabby and Ethan bring the belongings of the deceased to the diner, a room room that serves as a memorial for the dead. There, Tabby is shocked to find a familiar bracelet. Back at her house, her eyes fall on the flickering lamp. Driven by this new mystery, she and Ethan trace the wiring to the basement floor and begin digging, discovering the cables run impossibly deep into the earth. Jade and Jim take batteries and wires to a large tree to set up an antenna. As Jim climbs, Jade is suddenly overcome by a terrifying hallucination. The tree is filled with hanging corpses, blood drips onto him, and he sees the mysterious symbol again. A man appears and starts shooting at him, causing Jade to flee into the forest. Jim snaps him out of it, confirming none of it was real. Sarah tells Katri the voices promised to help everyone escape if she helped them first. She explains that the voices earned her trust by correctly predicting the simultaneous arrival of 2 cars. They also warned that this event had happened before, resulting in the town's entire population being wiped out, and it would have happened again if she hadn't listened. Katri realizes Sarah may be the key to their escape. Just then, she hears the voices again and asks for paper. By now, Jim has placed the antenna, but they get no signal. Haunted by the symbol, Jade goes to the diner and draws it. Mrs. Liu sees it, takes Jade to the memorial room, and shows him a diary from 1972 containing the same symbol. Jade is stunned. Sarah has also drawn something, a child on a UFO. Sarah reveals the voices told her something only he would know, that he buried a bag on his first day in town. Katri is visibly shaken. Boyd, still troubled by Kenny's anger, seeks out Christy. He speaks with Christy, who explains that Kenny sees him as a father figure and fears losing him. Understanding now, Boyd finds Kenny and initiates a game of catch, explaining that he's getting older and needs to find a way out while he still can. He admits his fear and tells Kenny he is grooming him to be his successor, which earns Kenny's blessing for the journey. When Jim returns home, he finds Tabby frantically digging in the basement. He learns her distress is caused by the bracelet. She reveals she made it for him years ago from his father's shoelace, but he lost it at the hospital when their daughter, Julie, was born. Its impossible presence in the town is what unhinged her. Shocked, Jim joins her in digging. Meanwhile, a nervous Katri digs up the bag he had hidden. Inside are wine, a blood-stained shirt, and a chocolate bar with the exact logo Sarah drew. The sight gives him an anxiety attack. The episode concludes at Colony House, where a resident named Kevin speaks through a window to a monster named Jasmine. She holds a bouquet of flowers, revealing he is the one who has been leaving them. Jasmine sweetly coaxes him to let her in, but he resists. Colony House is being decorated for a party celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Fatima's arrival, thrown in her honor for keeping everyone's spirits up. The celebration is bittersweet for Ellis, who is mourning his mother, Abby, and starts drinking before the party even begins. Before nightfall, Kevin once again leaves flowers outside for Jasmine. Meanwhile, a troubled Katri takes his bag to Boyd, who is preparing for his solo trip into the forest. At their house, Jim worries about the radio while Tabby continues digging in the basement. Jim proposes they use Colony House, the town's tallest building, to mount a larger antenna. The party at Colony House begins. A drunk Ellis argues with a man named Hal and is sent to his room. When Hal disrespects Ellis's mother, Donna, who is missing her own sister, punches him unconscious. Upstairs, Kevin talks to Jasmine through a window. She threatens to leave him for not letting her in, and in his desperation, he opens it. As they are about to kiss, she transforms and kills him, allowing more monsters to swarm into Colony House. At the party, Julie seeks out Victor in his room to ask him about the town. Meanwhile, Katri shares his story with Boyd. He was a priest who, racked with guilt over a child's death he felt he could have prevented, was on the verge of suicide when he heard a sound, followed his car, and ended up in the town. He carried the child's uneaten chocolate bar with him as a constant reminder. Katri had never shared this story before. He then reveals his secret about Sarah, explaining how the voices told her about his hidden bag, and argues she may be their only way out. Boyd is initially furious that Katri is protecting Sarah after demanding Frank be put in the box for breaking the rules. Katri insists the situation is different, pleading with Boyd to understand that Sarah's unique connection to the town is their best hope for escape. Jade, still disturbed by the symbol, re-examines the diary and finds an old photo of a man taken in the town. In the background, a young Victor is visible, implying Victor may know more about the symbols and the past. As screams erupt from the party, Victor senses the attack. This explains why Victor was seen digging graves in a previous episode. He somehow knew people were going to die. He lowers a rope from his window, gives his lunchbox to Julie, and they climb down. Inside, the monster monsters have killed Trudy and many others. Donna and Fatima rush the survivors toward an emergency van. When a monster corners Ellis, he leaps from a window, breaking his arm. Fatima pulls him into a space between two doors and places a talisman, which creates a safe pocket from the creatures. After climbing down, Julie wants to run to the van, but Victor sees the boy in white and urges her to follow him into the forest. They reach a faraway tree, and Victor tells her to go inside, transporting her to a cellar-like space. Donna brings the remaining survivors to the sheriff's office. Boyd and Katri rush out to help, but as Katri is about to get inside, a monster slashes his neck. Boyd pulls him in, but the wound is fatal, and Katri dies in his arms. Devastated and lost, Boyd and Donna are left to face the aftermath of the single most tragic night in the town's recent history. After the attack, Kenny gets the injured settled in the clinic. Haunted by the night's horrors, Boyd prepares to enter the forest, convinced they must escape immediately. Kenny tries to stop him, but Boyd insists on his plan and goes to get Sarah, who is terrified to see him. As he prepares to take her with him, he begins to remember his own arrival in the town. The story flashes back to Boyd, Abby, and Ellis on a road trip after Boyd's retirement from the army. Boyd recalls his old military nickname, Mr. Fix-It, and his dream of buying a boat. Abby surprises him with a key to a boat she already bought, the same key seen in his earlier memories. Suddenly, the ominous tree appears, forcing them to turn around and trapping them in the town as night falls. Katri materializes beside their car, warning them to come with him or die. Initially skeptical, they are swayed when they hear monstrous screams in the distance. They follow him to an underground shelter, as there was no colony house or talismans at that time. Inside, huddled with Donna and a few others, they listen in terror as monsters slaughter people outside. The next morning, they emerge to a landscape littered with mutilated bodies. Horrified, they grapple with the reality of their new prison, knowing only that night brings death. Haunted by the carnage, Ellis grows troubled. Boyd, understanding escape is impossible, decides to make the town livable. He rallies the survivors, but no one dares venture into the forest for supplies. Boyd goes alone. Meanwhile, Ellis notices Abby is disturbed, staring blankly and mentioning a strange dream. After Boyd returns with a goat and chickens, Ellis begs him to spend more time with Abby, but Boyd is focused on survival, underestimating Abby's distress because he believed she was strong. He dismisses Ellis's concerns and returns to the forest to mark a trail. There, he spots a dog with a collar and follows it deep into the woods, getting lost as night falls. Surrounded by monsters, Boyd falls into a cave. The creatures approach but then leave, and he discovers the cave is filled with talismans marked with protective sigils. He realizes these are the key to saving everyone. He rushes back to town at dawn, drawn by the sound of gunfire. He finds Abby shooting the townspeople, convinced they are all trapped in her dream, and that killing them is the only way to wake up. She turns the gun on Ellis, but Boyd is forced to shoot and kill her to save their son. This is the root of Ellis's resentment. He blames Boyd for first neglecting his mother and then killing her. The story returns to the present. Boyd, taking Sarah into the forest, admits he doesn't trust her but is acting on Katri's faith. Ellis is furious to see Sarah, Nathan's killer, but Boyd tells him to trust the plan, insisting she is their only hope. He sends Ellis away and ventures into the forest with Sarah. Back in town, Donna takes charge of the survivors. Jim rallies everyone to help build the radio antenna, and the community begins collecting wires and batteries, united by their shared desperation to escape. Boyd leads a handcuffed Sarah deeper into the forest, his distrust for her still evident. He presses her to explain why she trusted the voices. Sarah breaks down, screaming that the voices warned her that if she didn't obey them, Nathan and then everyone else would die. She believes the massacre happened because she failed to kill Ethan, and Nathan's death was the consequence. Understanding her situation a little better, Boyd uncuffs her. They reach the cave where Boyd found the talismans and decide to shelter there for the night as evening approaches. Meanwhile, back in town, the survivors of the colony house attack are scattered among different homes and the sheriff's station. Donna notices a resident named Eric seems depressed but dismisses it. The next morning, she discovers Eric has killed himself, devastating the tight-knit colony house family. A grief-stricken Donna goes to colony house, where Jim and Kenny are gathering wood for the radio antenna. Inside, Fatima confides in Ellis, worrying that even if they escape, the trauma will make it impossible to believe they are truly home. Ellis reassures her. Boyd and Sarah continue their journey. Sarah voices a theory. Perhaps the more they want to escape, the more the forest traps them. They follow a strange noise and find a tree hung with countless bottles containing messages. As Boyd reaches for one, Sarah Sarah hears the voices again, screams, and collapses in a seizure. In town, Ethan studies Victor's drawings for clues. To distract him, Tabby starts a game. At Colony House, Jim and Jade grapple with the fact that all their scavenged batteries are dead, leaving them with no way to power the radio. When Jade brings up Victor, Jim snaps at him for losing focus. Frustrated, Jade leaves to find another power source, suspecting Victor knows more than he lets on. Donna, still reeling from Eric's death, fears the radio failing will lead to more suicides. Overwhelmed by this thought, she grabs an axe and begins destroying the floor of Colony House. Jim and Kenny calm her down, and she retreats to Tom's bar. Later, Kenny checks on her before meeting Christy, who is also grieving Eric. Fearing she might lose Kenny too, Christy makes him promise not to do anything drastic if he ever feels broken. Jade brainstorms with Mrs. Lou when a light bulb gives him an idea. Jim returns home to find Tabby, Julie, and Ethan digging in the basement. Happy to be with his family, Julie convinces him to join them, and the four dig together, determined to find the source of the town's electricity. That night, Sarah wakes up in a tent Boyd has set up, protected by a talisman. Boyd shows her a note he retrieved from one of the bottles, which simply reads, 1864. Sarah reveals the voice she heard this time was different, a woman's, and it had a message for Mr. Fix-It. She was wrong about this place, and there are things in the forest far more terrifying than the monsters. Boyd is stunned, not knowing how Sarah knew his old nickname. Suddenly, something massive begins dragging their tent through the woods, the talisman seemingly useless against it. A blinding white light flashes outside, leaving Boyd and Sarah trapped and terrified. Boyd and Sarah remain in their tattered tent until morning, terrified. When they emerge, they find themselves in a clearing covered in massive spiderwebs. It seems Sarah's warning about things more dangerous than the monsters was true. Back in town, Jade proposes a solution to power the radio. They can charge the dead car batteries by connecting them to the town's mysterious electrical circuit using a web of light bulbs. Excited by the plan's potential, Jim rallies the townspeople to gather all the wires they can find. Kenny finds Christy pulling wires from an ambulance. He shows her a list of places he wants to travel with her when they escape, but she gently tells him she is engaged, leaving him heartbroken. Elsewhere, Ellis proposes to Fatima, and she joyfully accepts. In the forest, Boyd and Sarah navigate the webs, heading toward the light they saw. Boyd hopes it's a searchlight, a sign of rescue, but Sarah urges him to turn back, convinced it's a trap. She theorizes the female voice she heard was Abby's, as Abby was one of the only people who knew Boyd's Mr. Fix-It nickname. Boyd dismisses it, but then he hears a woman's voice calling for help. He pushes through the webs and sees a vision of Abby trapped, though Sarah sees nothing. When he approaches, the vision of Abby attacks him before vanishing. This terrifying encounter proves the forest can manipulate their minds. Spiders swarm and bite Boyd, but Sarah helps him get them off. Meanwhile, at Colony House, Ethan tells Jim that Victor has gone to find something important. As the radio tower nears completion, Jade visits Mrs. Lou, who is grieving her husband. He shares his own story of loss, telling her he sees his late grandmother in her and promising to stay by her side. Moved, Mrs. Lou hugs him, and they pray together. In the forest, the spider bites take their toll, and Boyd begins to weaken as they climb a steep cliff toward the light. A thunderstorm rolls in, and Boyd, exhausted, urges Sarah to go on without him. Panicked as darkness falls, Sarah is suddenly confronted by the boy in white. He tells her Nathan's theory was correct and that they are really angry because they tried to escape. He warns her they must go into a nearby tree immediately. Sarah pulls Boyd to a faraway tree and pushes him inside. He finds himself trapped in a tall, narrow stone well with no way to climb out. He screams for help. At the diner, a new song starts playing on the jukebox. Just as the radio tower powers up and Jim sends out a distress call, a bus full of new, confused people drives into town. Tabby, still digging in her basement, hears something above her and looks up in shock. The season ends on this cliffhanger, with the town's population replenished just as the original survivors were on the brink of a breakthrough, promising a more terrifying and mind-bending second season. Hope you liked the recap, so go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. That way I can keep bringing you more videos like this. And if you want a video on season 2, just let me know in the comments so I can start working on it soon. See you next time.